No.181 of the 17th of January 2024, held virtually via Microsoft Teams. I am Muzim Kize, chairing this meeting with members Mr. Kumete, Mr. Sbanda, Madam Semane included. I would then like to take this opportunity, members, for you to adopt the agenda of this meeting. Any changes suggested, members? I take it that there are none. Then we'll proceed because we've got two substantive matters to discuss, and then the others two are for noting of round robins that have been endorsed by members. I would like to take this opportunity then, members, to get an indication from you if you approve the agenda as presented by a show of hands. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you, Mr. Sbanda. I also support the adoption of the agenda as presented. We'll then proceed and to the declaration of interest. I implore all of you to fill in the declaration of interest form. These forms, then submit them to Madam Lilane. And I don't know if there's anyone with a declaration to make verbal in this meeting. By show of hands, I take it that there are none. With that, let's then proceed to item 5 of the agenda, which is the Transnet SOC Limited's 10th Amendment of License Conditions issued for the construction of its multi-pro pipeline system. Over to you, Mr. Sintumule and the team. Just 3.5 minutes to introduce or present this item. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to members, management and colleagues. The upcoming report is on Transnet Ltd, application for the 10th amendment of the condition of its licensee issued for the construction of multi-product pipeline, which will be led by Ms. Munyebodi. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, and good morning, members and colleagues. So the purpose of this 10th amendment application by Transnet really is to extend the completion period for the construction of its coastal accumulator tanks, or what we refer as the TM1 tanks in Durban, which were previously planned to be ready for operation by November 2023, but are now planned to be ready for operation by November 2027. The main reasons provided by the applicant for the delay in the commencing of this project is that by the time the feasibility study was done in 2018 and the business case concluded in 2021, the business did not regard this project as an urgent investment at that time due to the financial climate then. However, the rationale now to proceed with this investment, as outlined by the applicant, is that due to the refinery closures in Durban and coupled with the 2022 floods experience in the KZN region, the damage caused to the supply logistics infrastructure has had a direct impact on fuel shortages in the inland region, and therefore a need to ensure the completion of the TM1 project. In addition to this is the fact that the tight lining operation, which has been in operation since 2017, was always meant to be interim or temporary solution. So in terms of whether there is still a need for this project to proceed, there is a shared view that it is still necessary because the tight lining in itself reduces the maximum operational capacity and the efficiency as well of the MPP. And the accumulator tanks can, if constructed, availability of the buffer stock that will come into play, TPL will then be able to better manage and mitigate product supply reliability caused by import challenges and vessel delays as well. The main concerns we had with the application is the escalation of the project project costs as a result of the time delays, the certainty that this project will be successfully completed, and the treatment of the tidelining assets once the TM1 is operational. To address those, we intend, Chair, to put a greater effort in the compliance monitoring of the project progress and costs during the biannual progress reports, and not just at the end of the project. A prudency assessment will also be undertaken for this project, and through our tariffs department, we will continue to engage Transnet on the treatment of the tidelining assets and our opposing views to fully depreciate those assets prematurely. So that will be interrogated and subject of the pre-application process for the tariff application. On the other hand, Chair, we did receive comments from stakeholders, the Liquid Fuels Wholesalers Association, which represents the independent wholesalers. We received comments from Total and Sasol as well, all supporting the continuation of the TM1 project. And finally, Chair, we expect that with the successful completion of the SAPREP tanks and the acknowledgement from Transnet of the lessons learned through those previous projects, that the mistakes that occurred previously will not repeat themselves in this project. With that said, Chair, our recommendation is for the PPS to recommend to the energy regulator to approve this 10th amendment application as applied for, by extending the completion period of the TM1 tanks, and approve the reasons for decision document as attached, including the supporting addendum to the license conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Munyebadi. I would then like to take this opportunity to give members a chance to then make some comments, ask questions, or give guidance. Over to members by show of hands. Mr. Kumede, and then Madam Semani.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to you again, and good morning to members and colleagues. Chair, I support the recommendation. However, I have questions, and yes, we've spoken about the tidelining. You see, the question that I'm asking in my mind is, if SAPREF doesn't come back to a production mode, they have a number of tanks in that area that ordinarily, as the way they were running the operation is that you know, they were basically running components down to the berth or to the back of the berth. Now, the question I'm asking is, if that refinery doesn't come back into a production mode, are we not going to end up, and Engen as well, having decided to convert their own facilities to storage facilities? I guess maybe for them it's different because they may still need to have a way of injecting into the pipeline without affecting the actual operations of the pipeline. But with all of those changes combined, we will not end up with this as a white elephant. I guess for me, yes, I can understand some of the players, especially those that have got refineries or that don't, that especially those that were traditionally constrained to, for instance, having facilities in the Western Cape and not in Durban, that I can understand them supporting so that they may not have a dependence on the coastal players. But is there any other thing that I actually had the comments from Ms. Munyebadi, and we appreciate that. What I'm just saying is, from our point of view, is there no merit, Chair, that we ourselves institute an independent review of this? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be if indeed it ends up with low utilization, it will become a burden to the it will lead to a serious increase on the pipeline tariffs, because those are bulges in the TM1 and TM2 are bulges in the pipeline. Therefore, it may result in a significant increase in the tariffs of the pipeline, and therefore maybe even negatively impact on the use of the pipeline. So I'm just, Chair, although I support the extra recommendation, I'm just asking, Chair, is there no merit in us doing our own study on this to see whether, with those refinery tanks becoming available, especially the ones which are behind the port, would this TM1 still be required? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumede. Madam Simane.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to start where Mr. Kumede ended things. I think from my side, it's not even a question of whether or not are we not supposed to be starting our own studies on these matters, in particular the issue of the inland security of supply, and also the issue of whether or not the building of pipelines does translate to increasing security of supply, but also does it assist, which I have no evidence of, in moving the products from trucks to the pipeline. So for me, I think there is a bigger need for us as a regulator to have our own independent studies in terms of the market, and also that study must also include the fact that our refineries have closed, and where does that put the security of supply for the country. Then my other question is the application comes to us obviously now in Jan, and the completion date was in November. So I just want to find out then what becomes of it. Are we still approving the extension of the completion date that has already expired? And never mind the fact that we received the application in July. So for me, I just had those questions, like if the completion date has already expired, can we still call the submission a request for us to extend the completion date? And also my other worry was that how prudent are the project management systems for Transnet to ascertain the whole project, when if they are going to, even if it was 4 months prior to the completion date, if only at that stage where they were applying for the completion date to be extended. So what I'm questioning is whether or not even the now new completion date of 2027, how prudent is that is. I'll pause there for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Sibanda.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I do support the recommendation, given the changes in the market dynamics. The first question that I have is, it seems Transnet is now taking longer than the initial plan to build these accumulator facilities. But what has changed? Because I'm assuming that yes, the initial tanks were dismantled, but surely your design work, your civil works has already been done. So why are we now taking 4 years, whereas the initial plan had projected a 3-year completion? And I'm assuming also that probably there's a lot of other underlying background work that was undertaken as part of the initial construction. So, but why are they now taking longer to complete these facilities. And then secondly, just on page 4 of 32, paragraph 5. Okay, sorry, I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand my own comment here. I just have a comment that says this needs to be rephrased. Sorry, just a second, Chair. Sorry, Chair. I can't recall what the issue was there with that particular paragraph. But in any case, if I can move on to paragraph 10 on page 7 of 32. So this is sort of like our conclusion of the matter. Well, it's the covering submission, but my concern is that it sounds as if we are happy with the amendment. The way it comes across, that although there are these delays, the conclusion of the TM1 tanks will have a positive impact. Yes, it will, but I think we still need to emphasize the fact that this project has been delayed, and considerably so, and there are cost implications to this delay. So I think we cannot put it in such a manner that yes, there are delays, but we are happy that there's going to be a positive impact. Although we're not using the term happy, but that's how it comes across, or that's how it reads to me, that despite all these delays, now there's going to be a positive impact. So maybe we can just rephrase that aspect. Just to emphasize with the negative impact of the delays. And then sorry, Chair, bit going through the notes on convene. I think it's still trying to figure out.
Now, take your time. I think it's important that we go through everything.
So on page 21, on page 21, paragraph 31, just in the middle of that paragraph, based on the aforesaid, Transnet's reasons for the delay since the previous amendment that was approved in relation to this matter are understandable, given the circumstances at the time, since some were not experienced by Transnet alone, but the country as a whole. I thought that the previous amendment, or the latest amendment, was in 2022. If that can be clarified, Chair. And then the next paragraph. The next paragraph, the second sentence, it just sounds incomplete. I'm not sure what we're wanting to say there. The number of amendments that have been applied for since this license was issued in September 2007 for a project that was supposed to be complete before in February. So that's a bit incomplete. Probably wanted to indicate the number of amendments or emphasize a particular point there, but perhaps we can just review that and indicate what we wanted to say. So somewhere we indicated that we would want to pay close attention to the construction work, just to make sure that it goes ahead as planned. And then on page 26 of 32, paragraph 48, we were still continuing with, or rather my question is, how are we doing this close monitoring if we are continuing with the biannual reporting, because we are still recommending that they must report to us twice a year. Is that close enough monitoring, or do you want them to report every quarter? Because I mean, this is what we did previously, and the work was not done. So what's going to change this time around if we continue monitoring, or rather if we continue having these twice a year or half-yearly reports? And then the other part where we talk about the lessons learned on paragraph 51, I was just fascinated by this idea of senior management interference, paragraph 51C, disallowance of senior management interference, which was an issue in the previous construction. Look, I mean, what does this mean? Because isn't management responsible for executing the project? So if there was senior management interference, what does it mean? What's the role of senior management in all of this? Or what do we mean by senior management? Maybe if that can be clarified, because to my mind, senior management is responsible for making sure that the project goes ahead and all of that. So how do we disallow interference, and what do we mean by interference and all of that? I know this comes from Transnet itself, but perhaps if that can be clarified for me, Chair. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibanda. I know we are still finding our feet with regard to using convene as a package. So hence the allowance for us to really take our time to look at the comments that especially your annotations, Mr. Sibanda. It is with that understanding that I had said you need just to take your time. I would like to then give this opportunity to Madam Muyebode and the team to respond to the questions. Over to you, Madam.
Morning, Chair and members. If I may start, and then Ms. Muyebode will just add on to one or two of those because she's closer to the details. In terms of Mr. Kumedi's question, may I say, Mr. Kumedi and members, I think I support that such independent or more technical analysis be done. We are busy with the project in terms of logistics, which is just recently started, and we're trying to expedite it. But I think we'll also need to get input from other players. So our internal project is actually started, Mr. Kumedi, and we're running it in parallel in terms of the overall logistics. But I think it's a valid comment in terms of that. However, members, the current situation, and maybe when I get to some other questions about the refineries, it will come into play. All the product that is lost at those two refineries must come into the country. And the only way it can come into the country, realistically, we know the rail issues, is then by road, which at this scale of 16 billion litres is just not feasible. The pipeline remains the key way to get product, and that we've had engagements following some challenges in the past year or so in terms of injections missed and product not delivered on time and the use of the pipeline. So I think from the PPR team internally, we don't foresee that it will get to the I think you mentioned white elephant stage, or that it's not properly utilized, because with the current landscape changes in terms of the refineries, we don't foresee that to change, and the product is still needed. The market, based on the projections, is not shrinking. In fact, it's increasing, but that's more the diesel demand for electricity generation, which is more to the western side of the country, not this route. So, in short, Mr. Comedy, I think we as a team have started such a review, but maybe in consultation then with the committee and Mr. Mkhize as the FDRM, we will then see how we can do that further, but we'll be guided by you. Because the refinery tanks that you mentioned is independent, it's part of the process, but the SAPREF has got separate facilities licensed by NASA in the port from which injection is taking place. So I think your concern there, and maybe we can prepare some sort of a write-up of a presentation with the flows as part of this study, logistics study we're busy with anyway. So I hope I've given you some sense, but I think it's true in terms of maybe looking in it, but we don't foresee that it will. It still will be the preferred way of using it, and those other facilities and the closure of the refineries. That product, they're not on record. The companies is on record publicly. The top officials, they're not leaving the market per se, but they are just disposing of those assets. But the product they want to supply is our understanding. Ms. Samani, inland security of supply. There is a biannual report done by PPR coming to the subcommittee. I think it's going to be next month. Normally is the cycle or the next report, which looks exactly at that point. And then maybe Dr. Kuru can assist there if you need more guidance. In terms of the market, as I indicated, the market hasn't shrunk. It's just the supply mode that has changed, and the product is now sourced externally, imported, and transmitted. And since they can import product to Euro 5 and better standard, which is part of the DMRE's improving the fuel standards, that also is what supports that. The application being expired, they have tried to mitigate that by applying, but the process as it unfolds. So we've had this situation several times in the past. I think the members that would have seen that. it's not necessarily saying it's correct, and preferably should have been done before the date. However, in the amendment number 9, and I think even Mr. Sibanda referred to previous amendment, it was already clearly stated that this part will not be done because the business case is not finalized by the Transnet board, and they were only amending the SARPREF tanks which were needed, and that amendment focused on that. The prudency, sector performance, business case, is it prudent? I think that's for the way we've made the recommendation is that it still be processed, noting, and maybe we should change then the wording to address your concerns. Mr. Sibanda, taking longer, what has changed? I think, members, the whole landscape has changed since December 2020 with the fire and then the announcements of SARPREF. That was the key change. And at the heads of supply and the logistics planning meetings, which NASA also participates on a weekly basis, it was several times reported of some challenges to timeously bring the product because of the import challenges, and I think the members is aware of the port challenges that's widely reported in the media, which may be containers, but it also affects the petroleum vessels. So I think on that basis, the need for accumulation, and the members should remember these tanks is not storage tanks per se. In a sense, you put the tanks there for the product there for a week or a month. It's throughput tanks and accumulation. I see Mr. Kumedi's hand is up, Chair. I'm not sure if he's got a follow-up or where I should continue.
Okay, Mr. Kumede may come in. But maybe before you come in, Mr. Kumede, I think Mr. Untid, in responding, I understand that some of the things maybe without abusing my position as chair, to say that as the full-time regulator member, primarily responsible for the area, there is a project that we've embarked upon, which I must register my disquiet about. It's not proceeding at the speed that I'd expected with regard to looking at the whole value chain, considering where the bottlenecks are, what the challenges are, in view of the landscape changes that have evolved. And you would appreciate, Mr. Kumede, that we sometimes we look at it as logistics. There are different names with that have been used around that. We've had a meeting with DMRE in particular to look at these landscape changes and what needs to be done. And I was just thinking and mulling over this, and I think that there could be a need for us to also involve consultants looking at how the team is capacitated and also engage in other duties. So definitely that need for independent studies is very much acknowledged, and it serves to put impetus for us to proceed with the work that we're doing. With regard to the issue concerning SARPREF tanks and others, for me, the issue that there is anecdotal evidence to the fact that the tanks will still need to handle the imports, because in essence, the imports are replacing the refinery, the product emanating from the refinery. So in other words, that is anecdotal evidence, but the study must still proceed to actually provide evidence, that we can then work on to both qualitative and quantitative evidence to that effect. So then the issue of the refinery then talks to the product no longer coming from the refinery, but now coming from the high seas. In terms of inland supply, there is adequate capacity, save for the challenges at the terminal, which are being addressed in this matter, which are more operational, right? And then the evidence to the fact that there is enough infrastructure to supply the inland market is that the pipeline, when it was envisaged right in the beginning, included a pump station. There are, I think, two additional pump stations that can still be included. But because of how things have panned out, there is even no need to get into that. So if one looks at the infrastructure, why also the delays, that if you look at the infrastructure at hand, it's not necessarily going to bring additional profit per se, but it's going to enable efficient operation, if I can put it like that, and also eliminate a lot of risk, because remember that the pipeline, the refinery itself also had some buffer capacity in terms of process. I mean, like a product in process that is there. If one looks at a refinery right from the crude oil stage to when the product gets to the tank farm, so the buffer stock issue is being addressed by this project. But still, in line with what Mr. Sibanda has alluded to, team, you need to be able to rephrase in terms of highlighting the negative impact of the delays in paragraph 10, and also the need for operational vigilance. Now, heightened operational vigilance, especially to also engage Transnet to say, in the interim period, what are they doing? What will they be doing differently to ensure that they still remain operationally efficient and are able to handle the risk that go with the operation from using this the line that they're doing now. And then is for me is also then be able to then talk to issues of saying, in the interim, they must also be investigating the option of looking at existing tanks in that environment to see how it can be done. For us to approve a longer date that is based on them constructing the tanks, which can be shortened if maybe they can find some other tanks elsewhere, which by my understanding, they've already done that work, but there's nothing precluding the team to further engage Transnet to make sure that they zoom into that option even more to try to then get this project done earlier. And lastly, I think it's important from a tariff perspective when it comes to the issue of moving product from rail or from road to the pipeline, to also look at it from a point of view of the tariff being set, which is a matter that is going to be addressed in the application that will serve next month around the setting of the tariff for the pipeline. I just want to explain for the benefit of the members and the public out there that by giving this, it doesn't mean that there is no place. By giving approval, it doesn't mean that there should be no place for further engagement to kind of fine-tune things and make sure that things are run efficiently. Mr. Kumede, you may come in, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm hoping I'm going to be very quick on this. All I was saying is I really appreciate the feedback from Mr. Untit. All I was simply saying is that, and for me, I can appreciate on the study that needs to be done on the logistics side, which my only request on that is I am aware that SAPIA itself is, and I'm hoping that Ms. Untit is familiar with that, is that SAPIA is going back and doing wanting to do a similar study to the FSTT study that was done back in the days in 2006, I think, that they are wanting to do something very similar. That I think it would be useful that we are party to that, primarily because, as indicated by Mr. Untit, is that the issues of congestion in Durban are actually well known. The question is, when will they resolve? Yes, they may be on the container side, but with crude, we used to have an SBM. Things came in via different routes, so the congestion would not have affected that. But now with product, because they assume that the product tanks have to berth, and therefore the assumption is that they will then be affected. And yes, some people are making decisions to relocate. Yes, there was a time when the Maputo pipeline did not work, or even the Maputo rail perhaps was not financially feasible. But we know what is happening even in the mining side, the shift towards Maputo. The question is, what if that happens? So that's on the logistical side. So all of the scenarios. So what I'm saying is that I appreciate that part. However, my concern, Mr. Mkhize, Chairperson, is largely on the tariff impact. Because the minute we add that amount, yes, we can't mention a number in terms of the estimated project cost, which, as we know, the likelihood it might even escalate. The minute we put that capital in the rate in the regulated asset base, because it becomes part of that pipeline tariff, we need to have an understanding with a scenario of what happens if that projected cost is doubled. What happens to the tariff? So we need to have that feel, such that when we look at this, we look at it, and I understand it falls outside of Mr. Untit's scope. But as PPR, as a division chairperson, I think this concerns all of you. That in simple says, yes, there is the logistical side, which has got to be dealt with in a particular way. But linked to that, there's a tariff side, which if it's not incorporated, well, when this thing goes into the rate base, what is it going to be the impact? And is that not going to lead to product moving away from the tank? Apologies, Chair, for taking too long. Thanks.
No, thanks, Mr. Kumete. I think I think we're in one mind with regard to this, and it's a tariff matter, as you have said. Like I alluded earlier on, in terms of the movement of the possible movement of products from road from pipeline to road and vice versa, that there should be early engagements also with Transnet, and not wait for the tabling of the tariff. In fact, soon, when a decision has been taken in this regard, engagements should then ensue, which is something that I think is already been already a practice now with regard to matters that relate to Transnet, and they've responded very well with regard to that in the past. So I don't foresee a problem here. But the impetus that you are putting to us to the team is to say, look at the issues that pertain to tariffs as PPR, and not necessarily TPL as a department, that we need to be able to look at this, because it will have it's got a potential negative impact in terms of the volumes moving away from the pipeline. So team, if you can just take that, include it as part of the next steps on your side. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We will put that as part of the chairperson's report and the enhancements that we will be doing, because this parallel submission is with the ER for the upcoming meeting, and today's deliberations we will then enhance. But I think we can put the members at ease that this is not a PLC PPT matter, we in fact had a meeting on what was discussed at the public hearing, because some of those things for the tariff, it has bearing. So we take and we'll ensure that we just improve further on that. In terms of Mr. Sibanda, I think that's where we were. So I think we've discussed the changes and why it's necessary, and I think Mr. Mkhize, so I think I trust that has been covered. I didn't get your comment about the paragraph 5 comments, Mr. Sibanda, at the time, but in terms of paragraph 10, yes, we will do the emphasis and do the changes and enhancements in terms of the negative impact as well as the tariff impact that's now been discussed. In terms of, is it paragraph 31 and page 21, the previous amendment, as I briefly mentioned, the last amendment focused on extending the time of the SARPREF tanks, which is already being used or could be used. That's part of the interim arrangement. So, Mr. Sibanda, I think the difference was the focus there was on the SARPREF tanks, although it was stated that the business case for the other scope, which is on the table today, was subject to the Transnet board approval, which is subsequently been now received. The incomplete sentences there, maybe Ms. Munyabodi must help me with that, and page 26 in terms of the closer monitoring. Mr. Sibanda, you're correct. Right at the beginning, we used to have quarterly reports for all new construction licenses of this nature. It sort of became a problem in the sense that due to the duration of some of these activities, some of the reports didn't really show any material changes from the previous quarterly report, and in a way it was standardized to be quarterly reporting. But I think nothing prevents the regulator, and I think it's in the conditions, to ask additional information, and reporting at any point is covered by the license conditions. I think the other thing that's changed, members, is that it's not the reporting frequency, but I've looked at some of the older reports versus Transnet. Then at one point, and I've got evidence for that in the reports, the level of detail on the project cost became less and less detailed. And what we're trying to say is that should be enforced during when they report, in terms of what the earned value for the month was and what they were planned and were not, and then to give us the deviations and the reasons there, and not only later on. And I think that's what we're trying to say. The frequency, if the members guide us to do that, we will change the frequency. And I think then lessons learned, Ms. Munyabodi, that is what Transnet is saying, is my recollection. I'm not sure if you have comment on that, or whether we should take the guidance and request Transnet to provide that response to us soonest before we take this matter further. Thank you, Ms. Munyabodi. Maybe just on that incomplete part and this latter one very briefly.
Thank you. I think we can request Transnet to provide further clarity on the lessons learned from paragraph 51, and and then the other paragraphs are for enhancements, which we will carry through in the 2-pager that we'll be sending to ER. Thank you. And I think a lot of the questions, responses, Mr. Mkhize sort of covered them as well, the chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, colleagues. I just want to check if you are happy with the responses, members. So we may proceed to the recommendation. I'm seeing a thumbs up. Please then make sure that you go ahead and prepare that 2-pager to address all these questions, comments raised in this meeting. Moving to the recommendation, which is on page 6 of 10. The recommendation is that the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee considers and recommends to the energy regulator the approval of the proposed responses. Sorry, I think I'm reading a wrong one here. Apologies. My Madam Munyipad, if you can just help just to read it on record.
Okay.
Yeah, just read the recommendation.
No problems. So the recommendation is for the PPS to recommend to the energy regulator to approve the 10th amendment of the conditions of license issued to Transnet for the construction of the MPP running from Island View in Durban to Gauteng by extending the completion of construction for the coastal accumulator facility to be ready for operation by 13 November 2027. That's 21A. And then 21B is to approve the decision and reasons for the decision document attached here to as Annexure A. And 21C is to approve the addendum to the license conditions attached as Annexure 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Those recommendations are subject to the enhancements in line with the comments, questions and responses thereto, as well as the guidance provided during this meeting. By show of hands, members, if you support the recommendation, subject to that. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Madam Semane. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. I also do support the recommendation. We'll then proceed to item 6, which deals with the final findings report on actual tariffs charged by licensees over the period 1 July 2021 to 30 June 2022. Over to you, Mr. Simtumuleliti.
Thank you, members. Item 6 will be introduced by Mr. Tulle Mashangu and will be supported by Mr. Andre Haba. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. The purpose of the submission is to request the PPS members to approve the final findings report on the monitoring of actual tariffs charged by licenses in the period 1 July 2021 to 30 June 2022. Also approve the distinguishing features for Shell, SA Tank Terminals, and Bergen Cape Terminals. Also to approve that NESA notifies the 3 licensees of the energy regulators approval of the licensees' distinguishing features. This current report serves as a 4th report that is presented to PPS members for noting and approval. On 26 September 2023, NESA sent letters to 5 licensees that charge tariffs to third parties, namely BCT, SA Tank Terminals, Shell, Total Energies, and Transnet. Subsequent to the issuing of the NESA letters, licensees responded by providing distinguishing features applied to their third parties when determining actual tariffs to charge. NESA also held engagements with some of the licenses whereby context and clarity was solicited. NESA indicated to the licensees that the distinguishing features will be considered for approval by the energy regulator when the final findings report is presented to the January 2024 PPS. Findings for each licensee, responses from the licensees, and NESA's final findings applicable to each licensee are contained under the motivation section. Finally, I would like to clarify that the information analyzed in terms of paragraph 5.19 refers to the volumes and actual tariff charge information submitted by Total Energies at both its East London and Nelspruit facilities. The analysis indicated that Total Energies is charging the same tariff to its third parties, and both tariffs charged are below the NERSA maximum ceiling. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And for the record, the recommendation is for the PPS to approve the final findings report on the monitoring of actual tariffs charged by licenses in the period 1 June 2021 to 30 June 2022. Secondly, that the PPS approves the tariffs differential features for Shell downstream Southern Africa and SA tank terminals, as well as BCT, which is Bag and Cape Terminal. And lastly, that the PPS approves that NERSA notifies the 3 licenses of the energy regulators approval of their distinguishing features. With that, members, do you have any comments, questions, guidance? By show of hands, please. Madam Simane.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Mr. Mahlang. From my side, Chair, I just want to understand whether or not by doing this report does it not translate to regulatory overreach? The reason I'm asking that is that we're saying the market is very competitive. That's the first one. That is how I read and interpreted it. And then we say some of the licenses are price discriminating and everything else. But even with that, from my side, I just interpreted price discrimination as being in the normal course of business, because we're not saying it's unfair price discrimination unless I have missed it. So as I was reading it, I was just wondering if the market is already competitive, as we are saying, and obviously there are different pricing regimes. So why do we have to babysit the licenses? That's the question and comment that I do have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Simane. Mr. Kumet, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. I do support the recommendation. I just have one question on page 8, just for clarity. In respect of paragraph 5.12, I was just asking, does Shell downstream South Africa, in terms of their tanks, do they have third parties who are using their tanks? And if so, don't they have a published third-party access procedure and all of those things? And those things are supposed to be detailed in that third-party access framework. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Mr. Sibanda, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I do support the recommendation. This question relates to the period of the analysis or the monitoring, which is July 2021 to June 2022. I do understand the first report that we did. Perhaps that time lag was justified, but I'm not too sure what's justifying this time lag of more than 18 months monitoring of the actual tariffs. Shouldn't we be monitoring up until, I don't know, previous quarter or something like that? Maybe that can be clarified for me. Because, I mean, assuming that indeed there is unfair discrimination, it means that it would have persisted for much longer, the market, before we actually detected it. And then the second issue for me is just the way that we, I guess it's a terminology issue in terms of the process that we undertake. Because, for instance, we talk of findings based on the monitoring that we do, and then after that we contact the licensees, and then we make a final findings. So I think that first finding, perhaps, I'm not sure if we should be calling it a finding, because it's probably based on, it's more of the information that we are getting that raises suspicions, or that we are suspecting the licensee to be engaged in prohibited conduct of sorts, or to be in breach of the Act and the regulations, and then that sort of like triggers us to then undertake a more detailed investigation, including conducting the licensee to give a response to our initial suspicions. But I'm just concerned about the use of the term findings when we have not really gotten deep into the issues. We are still, in a way, investigating and affording the licensee an opportunity to come back with further information. Then we make a finding. So maybe I was trying to just check the correct terminology there. Maybe we can look into that. And then on page 9 of 12, paragraph 5.14, perhaps it's just a typo there. I think we wanted to say that NERSA resolved that SDSA does not unfairly differentiate. First sentence. Thought there was something else. Just a second. Yeah, so the issue, and that's in the recommendations, approving, sorry, what is it? We're approving the final findings report and the differentiating or distinguishing features. I think we just need to reference the specific paragraphs where the distinguishing features are actually listed, because we discuss them sort of in the general course of, discussing the issues in the submission. But when it comes to the recommendation, I think we need to be just specific as to what are these distinguishing features that we are referring to. I'll give you an example. For instance, we go to paragraph 5.12. So these are the responses of the licensee, and so they talk about the following distinguishing features, which is 1 up to 5. And then later on paragraph 5.13, we also then talk about factors that influence those distinguishing features. But if you look at them, those can also be distinguishing features on their own. So all I'm saying is, I think we need to be quite clear and specific and in listing the actual distinguishing features that we are referring to. so that when we approve, we know exactly what are the distinguishing features for licensing A, for licensing B, and licensing D, and so forth and so on. Yeah, maybe if we can do that, Chair, rather than just having a general statement that says we're approving the distinguishing features, but we're not specifying them. Yes, we've discussed them in the body of the commission, but it's not quite clear exactly what those are. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Mahlang, for the responses, please.
Thank you, Chair. I will provide the initial response, and the management team will support on the outstanding responses. To answer the question from Ms. Semani regarding regulatory overreach, I'd like to indicate that the scope of our work is in terms of Section 21 and Section 28.4. Section 21 assesses if a licensee with different third parties is charging different tariffs in the absence of approved or pre-approved distinguishing features, and 28.4 determines if those tariffs that are charged to different third parties are not above the NERSA maximum limit. So NERSA does acknowledge that in practice, the market regulates itself, but it has to be within the regulated framework so that the third parties are not adversely affected. Thank you. In response to Mr. Kumere's question, page 8, 5.11.2, we do confirm that SDSA, it does have third parties, for instance, and it does report on uncommitted capacity. The only information that is not, so to say, for public access is its third-party procedure regarding the features used to charge tariffs. Thank you. To respond to Mr. Sibanda, I'll respond in no particular order of sequence. So in terms of the final findings, initially we conduct preliminary findings, and then we solicit responses or information from the licensees. And then based off the responses from the licensees and the information assessed, we then make a finding. This was done for the previous 3 reports. I think the difference with this current report was at the August 2023 PPS, members made a determination that the regulator must make findings rather than preliminary findings. I think that's what might have contributed to the bit of a confusion in the terminology. And the typo on page 9 of 12, we do agree with your suggestion, Mr. Sibanda. We'll correct it. And the question on the specific paragraphs containing the distinguishing features, to put it on record, for BCT, the differentiation features are in paragraph 5.5, 1 to 5. For SA10 terminals, in paragraph 5.8, 1 to 10. And for Shell downstream, in paragraph 5.12(1 to 5. I'll allow management for further additions. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Kaba?
Thank you, Chair. Just to support on Mr. Mani's question regarding competitiveness of the market, I think as it's communicated in the document that it's most of the licensees in the storage market that feel that the market is quite is fairly competitive in terms of the tariffs that they can charge amongst themselves or for the services. However, on our part, the energy regulator still approves the maximum tariffs, if we may put it that way, that may not be exceeded. As well. So in terms of Section 28, the onus is on the energy regulator to monitor that licenses do not actually exceed that maximum tariff that is set or approved by the energy regulator. And above that, Section 21 of the Act also allows, as you have rightly put, a differentiation rather than discrimination between customers by licensee. However, Section 21 also states that you need to ensure that discrimination is fair, or that differentiation is fair. And that is what we try to monitor in terms of our process, in terms of this project, if I may say. So we do, even though Section 21 does allow for that, but we in our essence, on our side, we monitor whether that differentiation is on a fair manner or fair grounds. Perhaps to connect to Mr. Gumede's question regarding Shell, third-party access framework, then because differentiation is allowed in terms of Section 21 now, the grounds for that differentiation now will have to be approved by the energy regulator, which is the process that we're embarking on by asking for an approval of these distinguishing features. A licensee may have particular framework, third-party access frameworks, but those distinguishing features, will need to be approved by the energy regulator to ensure that they are indeed fair. In fairness, just to put it quickly, we have to ensure that should two customers who have the same set of circumstances approach the licensee for services, then we need to ensure that when they apply those distinguishing features, then the outcome will be the same for those customers if the circumstances are the same. I think maybe I'll just hold it there, Chair.
Thank you. I think it would assist. I know you've quoted Section 21 and Section 28 for when you're looking at when you're dealing with the findings for the different players here. But I think it's going to be important it would assist just to extract that and have just a paragraph, that section that talks to legal provision, the empowering provision now, and then talk to this and summarize it there. Then you can always make a reference to that, which is Section 21, quoted verbatim, as well as Section 28, subsection 4. If you can do that, I think it will then assist. And with regard to the recommendations, just if you can just also improve. I know there are already some gremlins there that I read them out, but maybe just to settle on distinguishing features and make it clear that these distinguishing features actually talk to Section 21. That will make it easier for the reader to understand. Members, are you happy with the responses provided? Okay, if okay, I'm seeing a thumbs up. maybe then the recommendation has already been read through. I would just then like you to, by show of hands, to indicate if you support the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Thank you, Madam Simane. Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. I also do support. This then deals with agenda item 6. We're then going to move to agenda item 7, which is the noting of the round robin approval of the submission, the Competition Commission of South Africa on the case of Vitol Emirat Bidco Pty Ltd and Engen Limited. The submission round robin was endorsed by Mr. Mkhize, Madam Maseti, Mr. Sibanda, and Advocate Tole. Members, are you supportive of the noting of the round robin? By show of hands, please. Thank you, Mr. Kumete, Mr. Sibanda, Madam Simane. I also note this then concludes item 7. We then gonna go straight to item 8, again, which is a round robin approval, which is here for noting. It's a decision and reasons for decision on the tariff application by Transnet SOC Limited for East Petron Storage Facility in Krugersdorp, Gauteng Province for the period 1st April 2024 to 31st March 2025. By show of hands, if you're happy to note this round robin, which was supported by the majority of Petron Pipeline Subcommittee members, Mr. Mkhize, Madam Maseti, Mr. Kumede, and Advocate Story. By show of hands, thank you, Mr. Sibanda, Mr. Kumede, and Madam Simane. I also do support the noting. Thank you very much, members. This then concludes the open part of the meeting. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members as well as management and staff for the efforts that they've put into these submissions, as well as this meeting as it proceeded up to here. And we'd also like to thank the members of the public for their interest in following on the matters that we're dealing with as a Petron Pipeline Subcommittee of the National Energy Regulator of South Africa. The meeting then stands adjourned